Greetings, children on the screen. Your friendly neighborhood nerd scum here once again. And I just watched the Constantine animated series on the CW app, and I thought I'd talk to you guys about it for a little bit. So, overall, in terms of the actual content they produced, it was fine. It was pretty decent, in fact. I read a few of the reviews going into this, and most of them were really hyping it up, praising it for how much better it was than the failed Constantine show, talking at great lengths about how, they really made all the characters more true to their own nature from the comics, as well as, really letting those characters exist on their own terms instead of giving them any extra added BS. Furthermore, in this, Constantine does smoke, he does drink, there's a little bit of swearing, there's a fair amount of blood and gore. It is definitely for mature audiences. And like I said, for the content that they produced, in of the content itself, I was actually pretty happy with it. Now, there are some things about the way that the content is handled that I'll get to in a minute, but just sticking with what the content that they actually put out and how I feel about that. The animation style was pretty solid. I enjoyed it for the most part. There are some moments where the voice performances and the way that the animation is drawn, the emotions don't really match up, specifically with Constantine. There are many times where the way that he is animated does not match the inflections that the actor, Matt Ryan, is giving to the character's performance. But other than that, the animation I was pretty down with. It has a very nice style, very similar to the kind of stuff that the other CW app shows have done. So overall, I kind of really enjoyed that. The performances were really solid. Matt Ryan, as always, is phenomenal as Constantine. In the Constantine show, the live-action show that was on CBS or whatever, there were a lot of flaws in that show, but the casting of Matt Ryan was not one of them. In this series, also Lauren Bailey, who voices the Nightmare Nurse, is phenomenal. Most of the other people are pretty solid. Excuse me. The one thing that I would say in that regard, in terms of voice performances, is the actor who does Chaz. He does a really good job at doing the lines he's given, but unfortunately, in this series so far, that character is nothing more than a plot device. And because he's nothing more than a plot device, he really doesn't have anything to do except to be there and to give exposition. So while the actor gave a reasonably decent and solid performance, he also didn't add anything to make that character special or unique or make him jump out at you. He's pretty bland and boring. And while I'm talking about bland and boring and the way characters and things are written, while this story was okay, and it did take certain elements from different Hellblazer stories that I've read and kind of puts them in there, kind of like with Justice League Dark, it's pretty bland for the most part. There are a couple of good moments that really pop out, but in general, when they're doing the really horrific stuff, half the time it feels like I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be laughing or if I'm actually legitimately supposed to be creeped out. There's a little bit of a tonal issue in it. And furthermore, the other thing that I would say is that once we actually get where this whole thing is going in the 5th episode, I'm going into a bit of spoilers here, the whole thing is orchestrated by a demon who wants to set up a second hell in Los Angeles, because there are so many people just ready to sell their souls and so many people dripping with sin. And it's just are you shitting me, man? I've seen that plot on Angel, I think it was on Charmed, every kind of sort of supernatural show that existed in the late 90s throughout the 2000s. I've seen it so many frickin' times. It's what's going on basically in Doctor Strange Damnation now, except it's in Las Vegas instead of in Los Angeles. It's I've seen it so many times. It's so frickin' boring. And there were a lot of little elements like that, but that's weird because there are other scenes, conversational scenes, that are written really well and they're performed really well. but it just, like, the whole thing leads up to this completely cliched and honestly pretty shallow and stupid plot, like, plan of this, like, demon who is very visually cool, and the performance on him is really good, but his plan is so lame it's hard to take the character seriously at all. And so another part of that, though, is directly in how the material that they produced was handled. So I'm going to go ahead and start talking about that. The way this material is handled is frickin' horrible. This is clearly, I know that they probably intended it to be a web series like this, broken down into 5 to 6 minute chunks, but whoever wrote it clearly doesn't know how to write that. And by the way, this, on IMDb at least, this oh my god, this series is credited with having 6 writers, but several of them it just says like character, unspecified episodes. So I don't know how many people, I'm going to say at least 4 people wrote this 5-episode season that only lasts for 35 minutes total. And it is not structured like a web series at all. It's not one of, like, it does not feel like one of those things where, oh, okay, it's a bunch of little episodes that when you put them together could make a movie. Because number one, it only makes 35 minutes, so it's not even a short film. And two, like, you, in some of these 5-minute episodes, you'll have a talking scene that's 3.5 minutes long. And yeah, it's a good scene in of itself, but man, we gotta be moving. Like, these are 5 to 6 minutes. We gotta go. Like, there's no time for this pussyfooting around, okay? Like, no, you just gotta move on with your story. Like, every 5-minute episode has to have 3-act structure still. And some of these, they do, but they don't, and they all just cut off on the most random places. Because whoever wrote this, I don't think they know how to write for a web series, so they just wrote like a 35-minute pilot for a regular animated series. If you were to remove all the breaks and all the stuff and the commercials and all that nonsense and just watch this all the way through on its own, I think it would hold up a little bit better than it does, except for one major couple of, it's not one, it's a couple of issues. A lot of this whole show has been predicated on the idea that, like, this takes place in the Arrowverse, but in this episode they retell parts of John Constantine's origin that contradict with what's been established, because the live-action Constantine show, that's in canon. He's not from another universe or something. No, when they've shown him on Arrow and on Legends of Tomorrow, it is the same character. All those things happened. But now they're giving us a new version of Chaz. They're giving us new elements of backstory, rearranging parts of the character. So that's really distracting when you're trying just to jump into the story that they're giving you. And beyond that, like I said, this is the pilot for a series, like a regular animated series. When you get to the end of the 5th episode, no story has happened. All you've done is got through the first act of a story. Like, he gets to the point where a decision is made, and he takes the job from a demon to help save his friend's child. That is not the end of a season. That is the beginning of your story. But it's given to us as if it's a frickin' season of a show. It's ridiculous. I don't know why it's like that, or how they could have conceived that that is a reasonable place to stop. And again, like, I don't know. I tried to look into it and see when we're going to get more episodes, but I couldn't find anything. Because, like, if it was like in a month or so we'd get the rest of them, then that wouldn't be so bad. But it might be like some of these other ones where we might have to wait a year and a half for another 35 minutes. And if it's done by the same people, like, yeah, they created a version of Constantine that I really like, mostly because of Matt Ryan and the way that he does the character. He's been voicing him in the animated Justice League Dark, and he did it in Justice League Action, and of course playing him in the live action. I love him as Constantine. And I'll keep watching the stuff he's in, but man, this could have been so cool. And in some elements, in some ways, it really is. But there are other things that are just so mishandled, and the storytelling is just not right for the media that they've chosen to do it. Either get someone who knows how to write the 5-minute episodes, or do 10-minute episodes. Or, you know what? Just give Constantine a live-action show with 30-minute episodes, or an anime. Just pick what you're gonna do. Pick a format that works. Hire people who know how to work within that format, and give us a product with the same quality of the best aspects of this. All in all, guys, it was really frustrating to watch, mostly, like I said, because of the way it was handled, but it does have some really cool stuff in it, and if you're a fan of Constantine, then you should probably check it out. If nothing else, watching it will give them more of an incentive to give us more and hopefully do it better. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. And if you like this video, please leave a like and share it with some friends. And if you're not subscribed, then make sure that you subscribe and hit that little bell so that you can get updates on all the cool content I'll have coming out in the future. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good one. Nerd Scum, out.